So Shinzon's finally having that dinner with Picard, where he reveals that he was created as part of a plot to replace Picard with a clone that would be loyal to the Romulans. But some realize it might be too dangerous, since they risked a hell of a lot just to replace Picard with someone who might decide his human loyalty was more important than his loyalty to his Romulan masters. So they decided on a backup plan. Send him to work the dilithium mines. Now this plan already sounds stupid, considering how physically weak humans are compared to most aliens, and so it's going to be a lot more trouble feeding and whipping him than it's worth compared to the amount of ore you're going to get out of all this. But then you see the kid's about 9 years old, physically. Geez, might as well just get an organ grinder's monkey and give it a tiny pickaxe. So he's dedicated to giving freedom to the Remans, who were his only companions in the mine. Picard explains a bit of his background for Shinzon's benefit, turning it into a speech.
What better example? A Starfleet captain standing in the Romulan Senate.
What's this gray stuff I'm standing in? Oh, just ignore the gravel. I thought we got rid of all that. For anyone who's foolishly thought that this change of the guard would mean less technobabble, think again. As soon as Picard gets back, Geordi hits him with a slew of jargon and made-up words, the gist of which is, the scimitar has a bad, bad weapon.
It has the ability to consume organic material at the subatomic level. I can't overestimate the danger of Thaleron radiation, Jean-Luc.
But I think a tiny bit can blow up the universe. As they contemplate the doomsday weapon Shinzon's got parked over here, the Viceroy sums up the sentiments of the audience.
This was a mistake. We're wasting time.
Shinzon finally concedes that the 2 full days he's wasted on this was because he wanted to satisfy his curiosity. Oh, I understand. No rush. You've obviously got all the time in the world for whatever your evil plan is. Back on the Enterprise, Picard looks at what I assume is supposed to be a picture of himself, despite the fact that he not only didn't go bald until years later, he in fact has more hair at the moment. He's always had hair on the back of his head stretching around to his ears, and while it's short, probably from being shaved off through the X-Men movies, it's still there. Shinzon's the same way, but you could always figure that he took to shaving it. But unless Picard got this picture taken during Hell Week, it implies he went bald around legal drinking age and wore wigs ever since. But at least it gives him a chance to go back to his scrapbooking hobby to try to soothe his nerves. Oh Lord, and this leads to the most stupid and offensive scene in this movie. I can't believe anyone thought this was a good idea. Shinzon's wasted 2 days already to tell Picard that they want peace, and now he's suddenly using the Viceroy's psychoflexus abilities so that he and the Viceroy can take turns being Riker as he's having sex with Troy. So in one fell swoop, you've completely undone all the goodwill you've built up with Picard, you've tipped off that you're up to something bad, unless you think mind rape is going to be greeted with a shrug, and it actually achieves nothing. How the hell is this guy supposed to be a tactical genius when not one thing he has done since the Senate died in the first few minutes of the movie has actually accomplished anything practical? And this scene is so despicable because, while obviously rape is something villainous, it is here solely to have him do something overtly villainous. Why not have him bite the head off a kitten if you want to beat us over the head with the fact he's the bad guy? Shinzon gave this spiel earlier about how he's learned patience, as if that explains this bullshit away. But he's not being patient, waiting for everything to come into proper alignment. He's just spending his time fucking around for no reason, other than to suddenly create a ticking clock for the good guys to exploit. Everything he has done is so obviously foolhardy and self-sabotaging that it would honestly make more sense to believe that Shinzon is guilty about what he wants to do and is intentionally trying to ruin his own plans. And it doesn't seem like much of a master villain if he's so completely incompetent your heroes will only win because he's screwing up so badly you think it might be deliberate. Now, prepare yourselves for a mighty shock. B4 is actually working for the bad guys. Not complicit with them, mind you, but he's doing what they told him to do because Shinzon's convoluted plot involved getting him onto the Enterprise to gather intel, and luckily to have Starfleet pick the Enterprise to go there just because they happen to be close. Of course, why Shinzon didn't just ask for the Enterprise as the envoy instead of leaving it all to chance would be as foolish as wondering why he would stick B4 parts onto a planet where the locals were hostile and might kill Picard, because to ask that presumes that Shinzon isn't a bargain basement Bond villain. Hey, guys, Mike Meyer already did the incompetent bald guy parody. You don't need to do it all over again, and with an evil clone to boot. And if you need further proof of this, Shinzon now captures Picard, the prize that he really wants. So, since the Enterprise is now a liability and has its shields down, Shinzon decides to cloak rather than blasting it while it's still helpless. Shinzon's got this condition that he'll need Picard to... Oh yeah, Riemann Doctor. I'm sure they have fine and respected medical schools down at the bottom of a dilithium mine shaft. Then again, put this way, it's obvious why Shinzon's oh-so-clever tactical thoughts are so obviously retarded. I graduated second in my class, behind a rat, but he was one damn clever rat. Shinzon rants that this is all about his need to kill Picard and to conquer the Federation, since as someone who grew up despising the Romulans, he naturally hopes to expand the power of the Romulan Empire. And if you're looking for depth and meaning to the idea that Shinzon is what Picard could have been, again remember this: brainless action flick. Earlier, Geordi and Data had tracked down what B4 was up to, so the android walking Shinzon's ship unsupervised is Data in disguise. More good planning on his part. Data gives false info and has figured out that the Theteron stuff is part of a powerful weapon, which along with the cloak so perfect it exceeds anything the Romulans have, is naturally something a bunch of slaves could whip up in secret. Picard and Data think about their options and realize that we haven't had a silly action scene in quite a while, so they start a firefight on their way towards the shuttle bay. The Remans that are bred for war then are repeatedly gunned down by an old man who's standing in the open firing a rifle one-handed, until our heroes climb into a small craft that Shinzon was nice enough to leave unlocked and build tiny enough to fly through the corridors of his ship without a problem. Shinzon then shows that bottomless love for his people that he was talking with Picard about by gunning down one of the Reman responsible for this escape. The Romulan military is chomping at the bit again about Shinzon's self-indulgent bullshit, so he promises to cripple the Federation in 2 days. Satisfied with this, they start to leave, but Donatra's having second thoughts. Since she hasn't appeared since that other scene with Shinzon, the only reasonable conclusion is she's pissy because he turned down her offer for sex. Crusher finally confirms that Shinzon's dying and that he needs a complete transfusion from Picard in order to survive, otherwise he'll die soon. Well, obviously that explains why Shinzon's been in such a rush during all this, huh? They also figure out that his petrifying weapon can take out a whole planet, so he's going after Earth to prepare for a Romulan invasion of the Federation. So if you're keeping score, Shinzon only called them here so he could get his hands on Picard, which he spent days finally getting around to doing, and ultimately screwed up because he left an enemy ship fully functional both outside his ship and in orbit around their capital world. His other plan is a sneak attack on the Federation, which the enemy now knows about for precisely the same reason. It's funny that if he'd ended it by admitting that his humanity wouldn't let him follow through on his evil plans, it'd not only explain these points away, but actually somewhat gel with Jean's vision. Instead, every time these problems happen, he gets so pissed off that it's obvious this self-sabotage is due to nothing more than incompetence. Well, thanks to this brilliant plan on the villain's part, Starfleet has amassed a whole fleet of ships to try to stop Shinzon, and that's where Enterprise is heading, while the captain's log voice is over. Being a grim fight, we've begun a montage to accelerate our battle preparations, because we all know this nebula we're about to pass through, the one which blocks communications, will be where we get ambushed. The small children on board know that. However, it will look quite cool having a fight in there, so I plan to proceed. Okay, here comes the part people point at when they want to defend this film. Picard and Data discuss the nature of having a personal copy and how it reflects upon them and their choices. Enjoy it. It's 15 seconds of this 2-hour film, and is cut short by the action sequence, which will cover the next half hour. The Scimitar ambushes them and shuts down their warp ability, but luckily Shinzon's nice enough to fly his ship so close to them that, firing blind, they can repeatedly hit him. Still, things aren't looking good. What will Picard decide to do to get out of this one? What action will he take?
Counselor Troy, report to the bridge.
Uh-huh. I agree. When in a desperate pitched battle against a superior force, now more than ever is the time to see your therapist. Shinzon contacts Picard, and in his ready room we discover that along with all the other things the Scimitar can do, it can project fully real-looking holograms anywhere and be undetectable. Nothing quite like a bunch of miners to design the most advanced technology anywhere, huh? He wants Picard's surrender, but Picard tries to talk him out of it.
Your heart, your hands, your eyes are the same as mine.
Don't you have an artificial heart? Screw you! I'm on a roll here!
Very deep within you, beneath all the years of pain and anger, there is something that has never been nurtured. The potential to make yourself a better man. And that is what it is, to be human. To make yourself more than you are.
I hate to quibble, Picard, but I'd say going from the weakest slave in the dilithium mines to the most powerful man in the Romulan Empire, poised to deliver a mortal blow to their greatest enemy, probably makes Shinzon the self-made man of the decade, wouldn't you say? As they have this dialogue, I'll tell you the biggest stumbling block for this film. Shinzon doesn't feel in any way like Picard. The idea that he is a dark mirror of the captain fails, because the only thing even close to being like Picard is the fact that he has no hair. And even that they managed to screw up. It feels more like Picard is dealing with his teenage son than with his own darker self.